Mhm. And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Here we are. It's 2023. I was about to say 2022. That's how quick time comes at you. But the topic of this video is going to be pretty simple. I've made videos in the past. I've talked about things like I talked about time as it relates to Pokemon, but I talked about time as like a measure of distance, like time in between sets and stuff like this. How long does it take? But the more I spend time, the more I think about this, the more I think about the hobby just as a general. I'm just thinking like time in this hobby is really meaningless. I think we spend a lot of time. We get down into like the nitty-gritty and we start to definitely overanalyze stuff, and none of that's going to change for 2023. And none of that's probably going to change from now until like inevitability. And the fact is we talk about like the day to day and set to set and chase by chase and all the little teeny baby nuances that go into Pokemon on a daily basis. But in the long run, when you look at this entire hobby and you look at it as like the large scale, the macro of this hobby, it's meaning time is just it's this meaningless thing. We're looking for something, we're looking for some kind of substance to it, but it's really not there. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by time is meaningless? It's just the fact is nothing really ever comes as like major surprises in the long term. When you look at how everything played out, you could just go back to a couple years from 2020 to 2021 to 2022 and going now into 2023, and you look at how everything played out. Sure, when you go back and you just think about like the little day-to-day stuff. And if you want to think about day-to-day stuff, I have some old videos on this channel where we talk about like the real silly day-to-day stuff. But in the long run, when you start to look at it, when you pull yourself back and you look at it from the outside looking in, it's not a long amount of time. Time is just such a meaningless thing in this hobby. But, when we look at like what's the hot topic right now, what's at least a very interesting topic in, the very short term, and that's just, print runs right now for Pokemon. What the hell is Pokemon printing right now? And sure, that's a conversation we've continued to have on this channel now, live after live after live. And, we're now talking about the nuances of, okay, Pokemon's going away from yellow borders. Now they're going to silver borders. Crown Zenith comes out January 20th. What's that going to mean? And the fact is I don't know. Somebody, I want to make sure I get their name right. I think it was, somebody messaged me like a great question on Instagram earlier today, and I didn't have a good answer for him. And I think it was either Zach or, yeah. So Zach wrote me a question. He goes, tinfoil hat theory, like, is Pokemon potentially like actually did Pokemon do a reprint of Brilliant Stars? And when you first read that, it just seemed silly, right? But then his question continued with, what if Pokemon did a reprint of Brilliant Stars, but they're only funneling it through Pokemon Center? Something that I've never even one time ever even like had that cross my mind as being like a possibility. I think that's pretty highly unlikely, but I love a good tinfoil hat. And that was probably one of the best tinfoil hat theories I've heard, at least this week. And pretty much what he says is, you look at Brilliant Stars, you look at the way it's, continuously being in stock on the Pokemon Center for booster boxes. And then when you go, so, PokemonCenter.com, you're looking at like, call it 145 with, round up. So 145 a booster box. But then you look at Brilliant Stars, what is it selling for on TCG Player? $190, which this is a whole nother freaking crazy question that we never have the answer to, is who's the guy buying it on TCG Player at 190? Why aren't they just going to Pokemon Center and buying it for 145? Like that's a pretty big difference. You're talking $45 difference in a booster box. That's almost a 25% upcharge you're paying to go to TCG Player, opposed to just buying that on Pokemon Center. Now, maybe you could get into nuances of the people that are buying this stuff. Maybe they're resellers, they're not paying taxes. And if they buy it on Pokemon Center, you can't buy it on Pokemon Center because then you got to pay taxes. And, it goes into pretty recently, Rattle made a video and he talked about like drop sellers and stuff like that. And drop selling is not like a crazy thing for Pokemon. In fact, drop sellers in Pokemon make a ton of sense because there's so much price arbitrage you can make on these different platforms. And we've seen that. Different websites, whether it's Pokemon Center, TCG Player, Troll and Toad, eBay, prices most of the time are pretty comparable. And, they're just like a couple percentages off. But then sometimes you'll see these major outliers where something is, 30% or 40% cheaper on eBay opposed to what it's selling on TCG Player. And those are few and far between. But, you got these drop sellers and that's all they're doing, right? They're selling it on one platform for a higher dollar amount. And then usually it's like Amazon or their private website. And then they're just, buying it from your P Football Pete's or whatever on eBay and then just having it shipped directly to that address. Most likely they are resellers. eBay has their reseller information, so they're not paying that, taxes, so they can do that. And sure, maybe the dollar amounts aren't crazy, but when you start to do that through thousands of sales or 2,000 sales, prices start to add up pretty drastically. Even if you're making $10-$20 here and there, when you're doing 1,000 sales, that starts to add up pretty quick. And now this is the difference. So if you guys don't know that story, Rattle made a great video about that, but all that information was actually like discovered or talked about way before Rattle made that video in both Professor Oak's Discord. The people that had that and kind of like discovered those people, it started in Professor Oak's Discord, made its way into Rattle Discord, and then, Rattle went with it and did what Rattle does best and did all his detective work and discovered like who these people were and what they were doing. Now, while drop shipping might not be a terrible thing because like whatever, price arbitrage, what they were doing, which was terrible, was if you guys have ever used like the eBay standard envelopes, they have like guaranteed tracking that comes with them. But that tracking is the worst type of tracking. It's not like a priority box or a first class mail. It's that that tracking is going to be a lot less reliable, but more likely than not, those cards are going to make it to the people. But what these people were doing, they were drop shippers. So drop shipping thousands of items. And then, most of these items are sub $20 and they're going to come with that, eBay standard envelope, which comes with tracking, which more likely than not is not going to get scanned at the destination. And then they were just filing chargebacks for every single item that quote unquote wasn't delivered. And now that's where they become super scummy. Where hopefully if you're buying, your less than $20 card on eBay and you're not double checking to make sure that the tracking actually made it, made sure it was delivered to your house. And if you are doing that, then you're just a piece of shit. Like that's all it boils down to. And, you're going to ruin your name pretty quick in this hobby by doing that. So that's what those people are doing. That was the huge difference there. But going back to what Zach's comment was what if Pokemon did reprint Brilliant Stars booster boxes and they're just funneling through Pokemon Center? That is the reason why Pokemon Center is not running out of booster boxes. Now, if that was the case, how big of a reprint could that be? Maybe it wasn't a drastic reprint. And again, this is all tinfoil hat stuff. This is not stuff I personally agree with, but I love a good tinfoil hat. Which brings up like this, it brings up a good hypothetical either way. And it's the hypothetical of what if Pokemon ever wanted to, eliminate the middleman, and who that middleman truly is just distribution. And then, your local LGSs or your online retailers or anybody buying from, distribution. Could Pokemon ever get to the size where they can do that? Very similar kind of to what Magic did, where Magic is just, direct delivering stuff to Amazon and kind of cutting out all those people, after using Amazon as distribution in a way. Could Pokemon do that? Because Pokemon already has the infrastructure. Pokemon already is shipping out an absolutely crazy amount of packages. And I don't really know how much product PokemonCenter.com moves, but it's got to be like ridiculous amounts, especially with like all the special delivery Charizards and stuff and all those codes, which I guess we'll touch base on special delivery Charizards right now real quick too. Is that's going to be one of the things we talk about for the longest time in this hobby. And now this goes to the topic of this video. And one of the reasons I titled this video the way I did is time is meaningless in this hobby. In the here and now, just go back a couple months, special livery Charizard codes were readily available. Anyone and their mother could have went on eBay, bought a code, went on Pokemon Center, redeemed their code, bought their $20 worth of product, got their free shipping, and just been this happy camper, right? And they got their free special livery Charizard. And it might have, in the moment, in the time, seem like these things were going to be there forever, that they were never going to run out, that prices for these are, continuously going down. Plenty of these are going to be in people's hands, and that's it. There will be no price trajectory of these. And that is such a very small window of time. When you start to pull yourself back a little bit and you start to say, like, what does a card like that look like in 3 years? What does it look like in 5 years? What does it look like in 10 years? What does it look like in 20 years? Now, 20 years is such a huge timeline in this hobby, because when we think about 20 years, that brings us back to like more or less everybody getting back into this, or not getting back into this hobby, getting into this hobby for the first time, because it went from nothing to something. Now, 20 years from now, there could be an entire generation or 2 or 3, maybe not 3, but like 1 to 2 generations of collectors who are just getting in at Sword and Shield, or kids now, and 20 years from now, they could be having kids that are starting to get in Pokemon. And the thought of a special livery Charizard, they look back on that and be like, yeah, when the special livery Charizard came out, I was in 5th grade. I didn't even know this was a promo. And they'll look back on that thing as like this exclusive PokemonCenter.com promotion, and all the people like got these codes and they were able to redeem these codes. And this all happened 20 years ago, because now time becomes meaningless in this hobby. And right now, to think about that, to think that that conversation would be something that's could be potentially had in the future seems so crazy. But you can go back to like Ancient Mew or something like super popular like that. You could walk into every single movie theater throughout the country. Didn't matter which one. They all got just boxes of those things, whether it was at local mom and pop movie theaters or your big chain movie theaters. They all got boxes of these things. And Ancient Mews, there was so many of those things existed on the market, and those things are one of those conversations people had then, and they're still having them now. That will be a promo that will exist on the market probably forever. And not only will it exist on the market forever, it will exist in abundance on the market forever. But time doesn't care, because time, at the end of the day, that Ancient Mew, people now look at that as a promo that was released a long time ago. And has it done this crazy price trajectory? You can make the argument that yes, it kind of has. The fact that you could still go on eBay right now, and like the cheapest Ancient Mews you could find are $25, which some people are going to look at. It took this card 25 years to like, be worth $25, and $25 is nothing, and all this stuff. And it boils down to we're having different conversations at that point. The fact that that Ancient Mew is worth $25 sealed, with the amount of those things that exist on the market and the amount of those that will continue to exist and will exist forever, from now until forever. The fact that you don't think that $25 is an impressive price tag for a card like that just shows how like disconnected maybe you are with the hobby, if you don't see that as being like an amazing thing, if you're looking at it as strictly just availability standpoint of a card like that. But I don't believe the special livery Charizard will play out like that. I think the special livery Charizard card is actually going to play out far better than the Ancient Mew, in comparison. And that's the crazy thing too. We're talking about a super mass-produced modern promo that anyone could have got, and anybody could have got multiple of them. And that's it. But this is it. It's time. Time, and that window of time in this hobby has now closed. December 31st, 2022, a day that now lives in infamy when it comes to the special livery Charizard code. It was the end of an era. Now, sure, you could do speculations. Is there a chance that those codes could still be, given out? Sure. Can they potentially be in auxiliary products? Sure. Like, is there anything keeping Pokemon Center from just making a PokemonCenter.com exclusive 3-pack blister or 2-pack blister, but with 3 promo codes or 3 promo cards in it? And the 3 promo cards in it is going to be the special livery Pikachu, the special livery Bidoof, and the special livery Charizard. There's going to be the 3 promos on the front of a 2-pack blister that you can only pick up exclusively on PokemonCenter.com. Sure, I guess that's possible. But when you start to look at promos and you start to look at how Pokemon has reprinted promos in the past, that becomes pretty far out of the realm of possible. But that's a crazy thing in this hobby. Anything in this hobby is possible. And Pokemon will prove us time and time again that anything Pokemon wants to do, Pokemon can do. And not only can they do, they will do sometimes. But I think that's unlikely, especially when you start to look at like special livery Pikachus. You're talking about promos that were released in 2020. It part of the Sword and Shield era. Now we're moving into Scarlet and Violet. Does it make sense for Pokemon to start, creating all Sword and Shield Black Star promo specialty products? No, it doesn't. But anything's possible. So I don't like to rule anything out, but my God, people are going to look back on that card, and I guarantee it. People will look at what that thing sells for in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and go, my God, why didn't I pick up more of those? And the worst part of this, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, the worst part of this all is all I was doing on my channel was telling people, please pick up these codes. Please buy these. Please get as many as you can, because this is a perfect opportunity in this hobby, because opportunities will present themselves in Pokemon. And in fact, opportunities are even presenting themselves in this hobby right now today. But if you're not like striking while the iron's hot, you're going to miss out on this stuff. That, for a window of time, that was an easy thing to go at. I've heard so many people now talk about like the precious collection boxes within the last month, because those prices for those products, went crazy and they stonked out. And you can look at a guy like Dan Catchmall Collectibles, and he literally made a video talking to people about getting a Tenso account. And the most irony of ironies is in that video where he describes to people how to make a Tenso account. The product he was pre-ordering from Pokemon in order to make that Tenso account video to walk people through was the precious collection box. The irony of that, like, just think of the definition of irony is the product that he was buying as an example, teaching everybody to use Tenso was that product. And then people will only want that product now when it reaches, I don't know, $400, $500. That's when people care about stuff. People never care about stuff when it's out there. And you know what? I say that loosely, or like people never care. Trust me, there's a group of people out there that care about every single promo, every single release, and they want it. But, people only start to look at stuff when prices go crazy, or when people see prices go crazy, they want it, or they talk about it all the time. But then when the reprints happen or that card becomes more available, people stop caring about it. You could think about, like, just in 2022, how many products played out exactly like that? Special livery Charizard played out just like that. Everybody speculated, are these going to be readily abundant, or are they going to be like the special delivery Bidoof? Before they were released, nobody knew. Once they became crazily released, nobody cared about them. Charizard UPCs, everybody fell in love with the promos. Everybody speculated, are the special livery Charizard UPCs going to be like the Celebrations UPCs? They didn't. They ended up getting printed Tapsule Oblivion. Everybody could pick them up. Once everybody could pick them up, nobody freaking cared about them anymore. Pikachu on the ball, specialty promo, only could pick it up in the United Kingdom, had to be part of a youth soccer league. They were only available, like, real scarce, only a couple kids could get them. Prices for those freaking skyrocketed. Next thing you know, Pokemon decided to say, you know what? Everybody could just go to the store Game. Yes, GAME, that's the name of the store. It's very similar to like GameStop in America, but they got Game over in the UK. And if you spend $20 at Game, you could get that Pikachu on the ball promo. What happened? Everybody starts to get those promos. Prices crash. Nobody freaking talks about those promos anymore. People only wanted to talk about those promos when they were $500. The second they became worth $20, people didn't care. Guess what? We're starting to see those promos start to creep up in price a little bit. For a while, listen, I made it very clear to everybody. I picked up a bunch of those, and I picked up a bunch of those at the most ideal time. As soon as they were released and we saw the biggest flood of those on the market, I picked up as many as I could for the cheapest dollar amount I could. And I talked about it as a bulk play. I like things that have very, very, very small barriers of entry, because you would be amazed at what, like, the slightest barrier of entry for people will keep them from doing stuff. And that Pikachu on the ball promo, the only barrier of entry that to really get that card was two things. One, you probably had to pick it up on eBay, because most people are from North America or just not the UK. They're from anywhere around the world except for there. Same thing. And then, so that's a one barrier of entry. You got to pick it up on eBay. And the second barrier of entry for a card like that was shipping. Good luck trying to ship something from the United Kingdom to the States and not paying $15+ for shipping. $15+ for shipping for a lot of people for one promo card. That's a $20 promo card. You're looking at, if that promo card goes from a $20 card to now a $35, if you're only picking up one. So the play for a card like that had to be a bulk play. It had to be a bulk play, but then there's another barrier of entry where now you have to find a seller who's selling more than one of them. You got to find a seller who's selling 10+ of them in order to get your shipping costs down to, sub $1 a card. At least get your shipping costs down to a price per card that it makes sense for you. And I don't know what that price is, but these little teenier barriers of entry, and people, as soon as they see that, they're just like, yeah, barrier of entry, too hard. I can't do that. $15 for shipping. It's like, yeah, I guess that card is $15 to ship. If you buy one of them, stop buying one. That's not a one card play, but people see that $15 shipping. Didn't buy it. Shipping's too much money. Shipping. It's like, oh, here we go. But like, that's the thing. Time for something like that. Time is already now starting to show. We're seeing those cards now creep up. They were selling for sub $20. Now we're starting to see them selling for like $30. $20 to $30. A lot of people are going to look at that and go, that's semantics. That's a meaningless price increase. Meaningless my ass. That is a promo card within the last 30 days has increased by 50% in value. 50% for a card. People don't care. Well, how's that card going to play out when they're completely unavailable at game and then nobody could get them? People still want those cards. It's a freaking Pikachu card. It's got a soccer ball, and everybody's now a World Cup fan. Everybody's an Argentina fan or whatever they are. At least every 4 years they become a soccer fan, and that's just the world we live in. But that's it. So now that thing is available. People don't want it. And then same thing like with the Precious Collection box, which I just mentioned. That thing was made to order. Think about that. That is a saying we very rarely hear in Pokemon, at least from an English side point, or a English standpoint, I should say. Made to order means pre-orders went up and whoever pre-ordered them got them. Think about that. They were just made to order, where if you wanted them, you didn't got to go through a lottery. You didn't have to do anything. And you just pre-ordered it. And then what did Pokemon do with that product? They decided to release a second wave of pre-orders, because this thing was truly print to demand. Anybody wanted them again? They even gave people a second opportunity to do that. When that happened, nobody freaking cared. And again, I say that loosely because obviously people care. I just told you, Dan Ketchum Collectibles literally made a video talking about how to create a Tenso account to buy that product. So yes, there are people that care, but you know what I'm saying. People, that only highlights on people's radar. And then why do you like that card so much? So that's the question I'd ask people. It's like, I love that card because of the promo card. And yeah, it's got some sweet auxiliary products and stuff like that. It's like, well, that promo card is now going to be reprinted in Crown Zenith. Yeah, well, that card's going to be readily available. Well, so now you don't care about it, right? You only care about that card when it's expensive. But now the chances of that being in, it's probably going to be relatively expensive and relatively being super subjective for a super mass produced modern set like Crown Zenith is going to be. But that card will probably do better in comparison to other cards in that set because of what that Precious Collection box is doing. But what's going to happen? That card's now going to flood out onto the market. And then more likely than not, I can't say this with all guarantee, but I would say that there's a likelihood that the demand for those Precious Collection Pikachus probably go down a little bit because now time has played out. The English counterpart has played out. It's the same thing with, think about V-Star Universe. V-Star Universe has has the V-Star Charizard from our Charizard UPCs and the other Charizards and stuff. Those cards are not selling for great dollar amounts. Why are they not? And great dollar amounts being subjective, like for what Charizards usually sell for within products like that, they're not even close to the dollar amounts you would normally expect for like a hype, beautiful artwork Charizard from a Japanese set. And the reason why was because it just was printed in English version. So people already had it. So therefore, like the Japanese version of the same card isn't stocking out like it would have. Now, let's change roles. Let's say that those Charizards that we got in the Charizard UPCs, let's say that our Charizard UPCs were delayed and that V-Star Universe came out before our Charizard UPCs. I'll tell you what would have happened. Those Charizards within V-Star Universe would have skyrocketed in price. They would have been some of the most expensive chase Charizards in all of V-Star Universes. People would have lost their freaking mind. And then the Charizard UPC would have came out. And once that Charizard UPC came out, prices would have just like crashed and then it would have been oversaturated. Nobody would have freaking cared about that card anymore. And that's why I say that's why it's just time in this hobby. Like in the end, everything just becomes meaningless. And yes, the outliers, they stonk and they do this crazy stuff. But that's how 2022 is, right? When you look back on it. And that's kind of what we're doing. And sure, is it cliche to do a yearly roundup, a yearly recap? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of cliche because it's the second day of the year. And because I didn't make a video yesterday, like everybody else has already done their recap. So like now this is just like beating that dead horse because it's another recap. But I think it's fun sometimes to just do recaps and talk about like, what do I expect to happen? All these little things, because this is a beautiful time. You hopefully could go back and watch this video in a year from now, but I probably won't. I'll probably forget I recorded this video because time just keeps moving on. And, right now, the hot question is what I started this topic with. Like, what's going to happen for the first quarter of 2023? What sets are going to be reprinted? I have no clue. And the last time we had this conversation was the last time we saw all booster boxes really dry up. And what happened the last time all booster boxes dried up? We saw a massive dump hit retail at the same time. We saw Brilliant Stars reprints hit, not Brilliant Stars. Battle Styles reprints hit, Chill and Rain reprints hit, Chill and Rain booster boxes hit sub $80. I made a video titled As I Walk Through the Valley, the $79.95 booster box. I fear no evil. Fusion Strike reprints hit on the same day, and the Evolving Skies reprint hit on the same day. Or all four of those sets all were reprinted in the exact same time. And it was a conversation we had back then, and it was a good conversation. Everybody said, why did all this product hit at once? And then we put our little tinfoil hats on and we said, oh my God, maybe they did it. Maybe because keep in mind at the time, product was selling out instantly. Nobody could keep product, especially at distribution. You weren't able to order product. Remind you anything, sound like anything, but at the time nobody could order booster boxes from distribution. There was nothing available. And then it all hit at once, and we put our little tinfoil hats on and we said maybe it all hit at once because Pokemon was trying to just kill the secondary market. They wanted people to be able to get product at cheap prices. Nobody really put any validity to that, but we put our tinfoil hats on and we had a conversation. But then as time moved on, what did that do? What did that massive drop do? We're starting to see Chill and Rain booster boxes above 100. Sure, Battle Styles got beaten pretty bad, and Battle Styles is still pretty low. And in fact, Battle Styles within the last week, I've seen booster boxes for sale for sub $80, and freaking Leonhardt's new auction house Rare Candy had a Battle Styles booster boxes for sub $80. But Fusion Strike booster boxes started creeping back up in price. Evolve and Skies booster boxes, clearly we know what Evolve and Skies booster boxes have done. For that wave, that dump I described when Chill and Rain booster boxes hit that $80, that sub 80, $79.95 on eBay. That was when we saw the Brilliant Stars booster boxes hit 95. And the only reason I know that is because I have a screenshot of it on my phone, and I've showed it on other lives. And the reason why I took a screenshot of it, because I recognized in the moment that that was something amazing, because I thought that that was an extremely good set. And I even talked about it, how I was very interested to see how that booster box would affect all other booster boxes because of how good of a set is, that I felt that the demand would be heavily swayed there. And I titled that video E2 Evolve and Skies, like E2 Brute from, like Julius Caesar, and, like that, like the Eyes of March kind of conversation. Like it was the same conversation, because I was like, I'm curious how, when this reprint happen, everybody's going to really want to buy Evolve and Skies. I'm curious how that, buying demand to that one set drives down other prices. And then it drove things down. But then what did we see happen? Evolve and Skies continue the freaking moon. And we saw moon, and that's an ironic freaking sentence to say, Evolve and Skies moon, because you got the Moonbryon and everybody lost their minds with the Moonbryon and everything. And now where are we seeing Evolve and Skies booster boxes sitting at like $300? But in the moment, at the time, we were having super in-depth conversation, and that's not removing too far. Time in this hobby is just this funny thing, right? Because you have to start to think back on this stuff, because time just freaking keeps moving. It doesn't care. And you know what? This time next year, we're going to have a conversation. And by that point, the first quarter of 2023 will have played out. We'll see if we're getting reprints. What is getting reprinted? Is it literally just Crown Zenith being produced in January, and then we don't see any reprints of anything from now until March 31st? So just call it April, because it's the end of March. That is a freaking long time to have nothing. And if there's so many conversations you could have, why would they do that? Does that make sense? Does any of this play out the way we want it to? Because, I think the market is asking for, at least the market is talking about, Evolve and Skies reprints. The amount of decisiveness, just to use the words Evolving Skies reprint, like that drives like a hard divide in this community. And I've seen it on like Reddit pages where people talk about it, and they're like, Evolving Skies is not getting reprinted. There's no freaking way. Again, like with the most certainty, the most definitive answers of there is no way Evolving Skies is getting reprinted. People are saying that. And this is a set that has 8 months left in rotation. This is a set that's still in standard. This isn't a set that is, this isn't us having that speculation conversation about some, I guess like the last sets we were talking about was like Massive Cosmic Eclipse reprints, or Team Up reprints, or Unbroken Bonds, or Unified Minds. Like, you remember that? Do you remember how far away that feels? But it wasn't the far away that was within the last 2 years, when all that stuff was still on the tip of people's tongues as being potentially for reprints, especially like Team Up. It's a set that was really short printed when you think about Cosmic Eclipse. Kind of was short print, at least for booster box, at least for ETBs, because we never saw massive reprints. We saw it in auxiliary products. We saw it in the Arceus figure collection and tins and stuff, but we didn't see the booster box reprint. We didn't see the ETBs, and the market would have took it. The market would have took it, with a smile on their face, but it just never happened. But my God, it's just the time. Time is going to show everybody. And I don't know. I don't know what Evolve and Skies reprint would do. I mean, it has to be to drive prices down and keep them down, like keep them in the dumps. take a freaking massive amount. But you know what? I said the same thing about Charizard UPCs. I said it would take a massive amount of Charizard UPCs to quell demand. I'll tell you what, to put it into perspective, my Charizard UPCs, I did my pre-orders at GameStop. When I went to GameStop to pick up my pre-orders, I made sure I was there very early because, keep in mind, GameStop pre-orders were unlimited. And when that happened, the freaking internet community came out and said, oh my God, GameStop got an email from their CEO that they have to shut this down. They can't take any more pre-orders. GameStop is selling way too many of these things. There's no way they'll ever be able to fulfill these pre-orders of Charizard UPCs. Like, the internet lost its freaking mind over GameStop in-store pre-orders because there was no limits to them. They freaking lost their minds. Everybody speculated. Everybody was an expert at knowing how things play out. There's no way. Nope. Yep, no way. Yeah, I told people I pre-ordered 4. You know how many people messaged me? You could go back to that video and be like, yeah. I've heard from my local GameStop rep that some freaking old Billy who works behind the counter who has nothing to do with corporate. That guy Billy, he told me, yep, anybody who pre-ordered more than 2, they're going to get their slash down to 2, and then but you still be able to get your 2 pre-orders and blah blah blah. And to think back on all those conversations that people had, I walked into my GameStop on the day of release, even got there early. There was a line of like 10 people waiting to get those Charizard UPCs because people wanted them. And I walked to the front and I had my pre-order of 4 that I prepaid, and I got a box of them. And I walked out the front door with my Charizard UPCs because everybody thought these things were going to be underprinted and that there's going to be no way. The guy in front of me pre-ordered 10. It was just like, and now you could probably go on GameStop.com right now, and they're probably selling at $119 and they're just sitting there. You could go on PokemonCenter.com, they're sitting there for $119. But because they were, it's just, but there's this, the topic of this video, the theme of this video is just freaking time, right? When you look back on this stuff, it seems so silly because things play out, and we saw how that played out. My God, it played out. This is the best part of Pokemon, though, right? And people will hear me and they'll be like, oh, listen to PK. He's getting all like riled up about this. Like, no. The truth is in the time, in the moment, this is the most fun conversations to have, especially when they're playing out, because no one knows. And I will say that, and I will scream it from the freaking mountaintops. If you think that I know, I don't know everything. And especially when it comes to like speculation on how Pokemon's going to reprint stuff, I promise you, and I swear to God, I do not know. I don't know how Pokemon's going to, reprint stuff, but I'll tell you what I would like to do and what I love to do. I will fucking speculate, because speculating in this hobby is so much fun. And I talk about that all the time. If you've made it down the YouTube rabbit hole, which, shout out to all you guys. And I appreciate the fact that I've had, a decent subscriber, growth on my channel. Maybe my channel isn't as nichey of the niches as maybe it once was, but in relative to the rest of the, bigger Pokemon YouTube sphere, it's still in the niches of the niches. But I tell you what, I will continue to speculate. And if you want to talk about a New Year's resolution, that's one that's going to stick around. I'll continue to speculate, and we won't get everyone right. But the ones we do get right, it's going to feel good. And you know what? As long as you're getting more right than wrong, that's all that matters. But if you go back and you think about stuff like, what was I saying about the Charizard UPCs? And if you are a follower of this video or this channel and you've watched a lot of these lives, you will remember that there was one constant I said about that Charizard UPC. As soon as we just got the very smallest inkling that those are going to be mass produced, I said that those things at the time, they are not sealed product plays. Anybody using Charizard UPCs as a sealed product play will hurt in the short term. And I still to this day believe that. And I believe that those products were a product that was easily cannibalized. You had a bunch of packs, you sell your coins, sell your mats. I didn't sell my coins. I didn't sell my mats. I didn't sell my sleeves. I didn't sell my damage counters. I didn't sell my packs. I just threw them in a cardboard box. But I graded all my promos. I graded them, some of them at $100, some of them at $50. I wish I didn't do that because the time difference between 50 and 100 was not long enough. I got super lucky that every single card I graded under the $100 tier, all 14 of those cards, I got very lucky that they all hit tens. And trust me, at the time I sold those, none of those cards were selling for sub $100. I made money on every single one of those plays. The $50 ones, all the nines, broke even on. So be it. The six tens that I still hit under the $50, still made money on those. Every other person who said, you know what, I'm going to decide to hold back on these cards, send them at $15. At the time of recording this video now, all those plays are back. Anybody that sent away at $15 when those Charizard UPCs came back, they now made money in nines. They definitely made money in tens. You're looking at prices for those cards in a 10 are still selling for like $80 right now, which I talked about a play like that is those cards are the fastest race to the bottom ever. But I've even recently, at the time of recording this video, still sending those promos away. I sent out my last PSA submission on December 31st because the $15 TCG special was up and I needed to make sure that I had my last submission of, that special. Within that submission were 6 Charizard UPC promos, 2 of each. I had opened 2 more Charizard UPC promos, sent those babies at $15. It's just, I don't think I'm going to lose even at those. And that is a long, long, long ways removed from when that was a real quick play. We are far removed now from now looking at Charizard UPCs. And the fact that I'm still making those plays. If I grade those babies, they hit nines, more or less make a couple bucks, break even at $30, hit tens. As long as those things are still selling for like $60 by the time I get them back, I'm going to be making a decent amount of money at those things hitting tens at $60 a piece, which again, they're selling at $80 now. So I'm still giving myself like a $20 retrace. And not only that is I have some of those promos that are still coming back to me like very soon. But this is the thing. Time. When you look at those plays now, you fast forward 6 months from now, when those cards are selling in a 10 for $50, go look right now. Go look at the Charizard Black Star promo from Champions Path. The promo that came with every single fucking Champions Path Elite Trainer box, that promo. Look at it. Look at what that card is still today is selling in a 10. And look at how many sales of that card in a 10 happened just today. At the time of recording this video, a promo that I think has 67,000 of those, or maybe 70,000 of those cards have been graded. 70,000 Charizard Black Star promos from Champions Path have been graded. And you will probably find a sale today where that card sold between $35 and $45 in a PSA 10. 70,000 cards. You know how many 70,000 of one graded card is? But yet the market, and that's the thing. When we talk about time, in the long run, the market's just going to keep doing this. I don't know how it keeps doing it, but it does. This hobby is an absolute juggernaut. And you hear people, even the harshest critics of Pokemon, the people that are just all the way out there, they say Pokemon is like this, not investable. It's don't buy Pokemon, everything's crashing. The people that are really in the know, we never say that. It's just be careful in the now, because this is the thing. When you look at Pokemon from this long window, the long series of time, it doesn't matter realistically if you get into a booster box at $80, $100, or $120 when you start to look at a lot of these sets in the past. The only set I ever said to buy at greater than $120 was Cosmic Eclipse when they were selling booster boxes at 150. And my God, I went out on a freaking ledge telling people I thought Cosmic Eclipse booster boxes were good buys at $150. It's like some of the earliest videos I made on my channel, where at those time I was Cosmic Eclipse, Cosmic Eclipse. It just sounded like I have Tourette's talking about Cosmic Eclipse because I just thought it was an amazing set. I thought it was slept on, and I was ready for those booster boxes to do run-ups because it just seemed at the time reprints were getting pretty unlikely, and the comment section was still telling me I was wrong. And then I even made videos. Oh my God, there's videos on my channel I think titled like Cosmic Eclipse reprints, where we got like, we heard some Target stores got like 3-pack blisters in November of 2020, like random little things we were trying to just pull out to like try to pull out data. And now as time goes by, didn't matter if you bought that booster box at 100 or if you bought it at 120 or the price I said 150. Like, it doesn't matter when you look at the prices now today. But what we do on this channel, and what we will continue to do, is we're going to break stuff down in the here and now. That's why when you could have a live, when we're talking about stuff, we talk about the most relevant stuff. But at the end of the day, time in this hobby is just, I don't know if it proves people wrong at this point or if it just reinforces. And that's the thing too, is we get in our little arguments and stuff. And like, when we talk about like reprinting or, you know, the imaginary debate of modern versus vintage or sealed versus graded or raw, you know, it's all very silly when you think about it, because when you really, really think about it, to try to explain the nuances of these conversations to anyone who's not in the know, meaning if you are not in this hobby, to hear that argument, you know, to hear about sealed modern product, where is the play in modern? Is it to rip, grade cards, grade your chases, be first to the market with those, you know, instant new promos? Is it smarter to wait for that set to play out, for some of those cards to start trickle onto the market, to start to find the modern cards that start to become undervalued? Is that set just a sealed product play, and you shouldn't be doing anything except for buying the sealed? When you think about it and you think about the nuances of that conversation, to anybody who's not in the know, that would be the dumbest freaking conversation. And good luck. Go find yourself a friend who knows nothing about Pokemon and try to explain to them the nuances of sealed modern product versus raw singles of a year and a half old set, and like all the little things that go on like that. Like, good luck. Or go pull up, you know, a TCG player, you know, price charts for the last 6 months and look at how things have been playing out. Look at, you know, especially when it comes to raw cards, you know, go look at Evolving Skies and look at what's the Umbreon VMAX doing versus the alternative art versus the regular V versus the Sylveon versus the Glaceon versus, you know, just what's the Dragonite V doing in Brilliant Stars, you know, just like these little teeny conversations. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And I think that's what we're going to learn. And I think we already know it though, right? I think everybody kind of already knows it. And some people like don't even want to hear it. They don't want to have the conversation or whatever. It is what it is. But this is the point where I want to kind of like look back now on 2020, where we kind of did that, right? And when we rewind ourselves a little bit to 2020, and this is a thing too that's time plays out in Pokemon, is everybody always talks about like the best set. Evolving Skies is the best set Pokemon has ever made. Brilliant Stars is the best set Pokemon ever made. Crown Zenith, have you guys seen the releases for Crown Zenith? Crown Zenith is the new greatest set Pokemon has ever made. V-Star Universe, do you see V-Star Universe? V-Star Universe, greatest set Japanese product ever made. Rewind a little bit before that, you know, it's just like VMAX Climax. Did you see that? VMAX Climax, best set Pokemon ever made. Rewind a little bit before that. Shining Fates for English. Shining Fates, best set Pokemon's ever made. Rewind a little bit before that. Hidden Fates. Hidden Fates, the best set Pokemon has ever made. Oh my God, we just do this, right? Like Vivid Voltage. Vivid Voltage, amazing rares. Everybody is going to love amazing rares. Vivid Voltage. Rainbow Chunkachu card selling for like $300 at release. Like that's going to be card everybody's going to want. That card's going to keep going up. It's just never going to stop. It's just going to go up from now until eternity. Oh my God. Vivid Voltage, Staff Charizard, Staff promos. Did you guys hear? There's no longer going to be like competitive play. Staff promos are gone. We will never see another staff promo ever. Staff promo Charizard going to the moon. It's the last ever staff promo. Just like at the time, you hear all these things, and these are real conversations people are having. Staff promo Charizard from Vivid Voltage. Stock to the freaking moon. Buy that card for $2,000+. You can become a millionaire. Mason Rares, that's not going to ever be a dollar card. Rainbow Rare Chunkachu. Look at how much hype is in there. That card's never retracing below $300. How all that stuff played out. Time in the fucking Pokemon hobby. The time in this hobby just doesn't care. It doesn't care about what anybody thinks. But when you look back on all this stuff, it's like, yeah, well, obviously there would be more staff promos. They stopped making staff promos because they shut down for the lockdowns and all tournament play wound up. People are like, no. They stopped making staff promos because staff promos were selling too much on the secondary market. That's what people said. These are real conversations people said, real words people said, that the reason why Pokemon stopped making staff promos was because they were selling for too much on the secondary market. Never said because of just the shutdowns and the fact that competitive play stopped. Like these are real conversations. People are going to be listening to this video, think I'm just fucking talking out my ass, but I'm not. These are real conversations people are having. Time in this hobby just proves everything, but that's it, right? Like, don't get too caught up in the day-to-day. It's just like today. We're talking about the reprints. That's the hot topic. What is Pokemon going to reprint for the next 3 months from January? Yes, Crown Zenith is coming out January 20th. But February, March, April, I'll do this speculation right now. I think Pokemon's reprinting a bunch of crap. I think Pokemon's reprinting a lot of Sword and Shield stuff, and we're going to see dumps on the market pretty soon. I don't have any ways to prove this, but if this doesn't happen, my God, prices of everything will go stupid in the next 3 months. If there are no booster boxes available of any set for the next 3 months leading up to Scarlet and Violet, I will speculate everything will go stupid silly. Nothing will go down in price if there are no reprints. And then it will be the same exact feeling. Do you remember think about in the booms of booms when all product just went away? What were the sets that went up in price at the very end? And we said when those prices started to go up, the whole market was on a crazy trajectory. Where were your two indicators? Your two indicators were Steam Siege cracked $100 of booster boxes, and Crimson Invasion cracked $100 per booster box. I'll never forget when Crimson Invasion cracked $100 booster box. And then I went on eBay and I saw sales of Crimson Invasion booster boxes for $150. I couldn't believe my eyes. And you know why that happened? Because there was nothing else available. And I said, we were in the heights of heights and the booms of booms and the potentially bubbles of bubbles that everybody had to claw and scrape. And the only thing left at the bottom of that bucket was just Crimson Invasion. There it was. The fact that people needed to buy Crimson Invasion booster boxes. And now those things creeped up. Steam Siege booster boxes, like, don't even hurt yourself. Don't go on eBay. Don't even bother looking at what a sealed Steam Siege booster box goes for. It'll hurt you. Yes, I don't care how much of a Steelix EX fan you are. It's going to hurt you looking at that price. But if in the next 3 months, there are no reprints of anything, everybody who's sitting on Battle Styles booster boxes, your Battle Styles booster box will play out like Steam Siege, or it will play out like Crimson Invasion. Probably more likely it'll play out like Crimson Invasion than it will Steam Siege. But like that, I could see that being a $150 booster box by April 1st if there is 0 booster box reprints from now until then. And The crazy thing is you'll probably still be able to pick up Battle Styles ETBs for $30-$35. Those will still be available, but booster boxes you'll start to see go up in price because that's just what happens. I'm telling you, like just that happens. And I know you're going to be like, no, you could still pick. I don't care that you could pick up ETBs. Those booster boxes will be expensive. What was the topic? What else was I going to talk about was yeah, so I titled this video perfectly right. Stereotypical rants in 2022 wrap up. I think I'm doing a good job of wrapping up how 2022 played out. Crazy hype period. This is me living in 2022, being as engaged as I am. Most of you guys are. 2022 was not this like Debbie Downer year. 2022, all 2022 did was cement to me how strong Pokemon was. I heard some people talking about how everything was dipping 50%, 40%. People are looking at some outlier sales and stuff like this. Stuff that in a way, like I'm going to be honest, I just glazed over a lot of that stuff because all the retrace prices that people were talking about were unrealistic prices that they were retracing from, like we saw a lot of retraces in like first edition base and stuff like this, things that went stupid in price, commons, uncommons, non-hollow rares and stuff. Well, even non-hollow rares are still doing pretty good, but yeah, but like for a lot of those cards, huge retraces, then yeah, sure, we'll do it. We'll do it one more time just to, start this year right. First edition Jungle Pikachus, first edition Jungle Eevees. Yes, those things dropped in price, but like those, I just glaze over that kind of stuff. And probably most people that are really in the super like engagedness of the hobby glazed over that stuff anyways, because we weren't the ones buying that stuff. Hopefully you were the one selling that stuff, and you were doing very good. And hopefully you sold that Jungle Pikachu at 1,500 and then you continue to sell it when it hit 1,000 and then 500 and you kept selling it at 300 and whatever you had, you kept selling but when I look at some stuff, I look at recent PWCC auctions last night, like picking up some, what I think are good prices, like, that's a good deal. Like I think last night I picked up the Rockets Moltres from Team Rockets Return PSA 9. Old PSA labels, like a 2 million cert, and probably doesn't deserve to be a 9, but it doesn't matter. Like the market's gonna, value that for what it is. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a nice little price, whatever. Like Moltres EX Team Rocket Returns, and I'm looking at it, okay, like what is a EX Team Rocket Return pack sell for? And all this stuff. But then I look at what I buy that card for and I'm just like, yeah, I think this is a nice price, but like, I don't feel great about this buy because this is still a lot of money for this card. This is still a decent price point for this. And that was as recent as Sunday night. And I'm like, this is still a lot of money. This is not a cheap card by any sense. I'm like, what happened to this huge pullback on all these cards? Like, but then, pick that card up for $200. I'm looking at it as like 222, I think it was, like after, buyer's premium. I'm like, what's my downside of that? 20% loss, 20%. So 20% loss is $40. That brings me down to like 180. Let's just say it goes down like to 150 for that card. If the Moltres from EX or the EX Moltres from Team Rocket Returns hits down to 150, I'm like, there's probably going to be a lot of buying pressure for that card at 150. I don't think that's a price that card could really like stay that low. And then if a card like that could hit 150, which is that is a bad case scenario, I'm not a seller of that card at 150. I'm just going to hold on to that card. It just goes away into the grandma's basement and it just gets locked up until it's ready to flap its wings and fly away. And I'm just looking at it, I'm like, but that's a lot of money for that card. Where's this pullback? I want a bigger pullback than this. I want the pullback that everybody promised me. I want the pullback where I could just pick up stuff at pre-2020 levels, pre-2016 levels. Like, where is this pullback? This pullback isn't here for the stuff that I really want. But like, so stereotypical rants, like there's stereotypical rant. But channel wrap up for 2022, like I don't know about you guys. I had a lot of freaking fun on this channel in 2022. There's a lot of big highlights that came out of my channel. Some that I'm like, sit back and I think about these highlights. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Started podcast. Very lucky. I got two great co-hosts for the podcast that I help co-host. Myself, Coltrane and Ryan, Rattle Pokemon. That started last year. I'm like, oh boy, how did that podcast play out? Easily. Some of the best times I've had in this entire hobby, like ever. Think about that. Ever. Last year, I went to 2 different events. I went to Leonhardt's pop-up shop. On stage, I got to open a base set pack. I pulled a Mewtwo. Sure, Mewtwo from, Zap Theme Deck. Maybe not the one of the cards you want, probably that, or the Hitmonchan, probably not like, the biggest cards you want. Graded that card, got a PSA 10. That was in February of last year. Had some awesome lives. People I really respect, people I really look up to in this hobby. I was super lucky. Made a lot of friends last year in this hobby. I got to have TCA Gaming join me on a live on my channel more than once. I got to have a one-on-one conversation with TCA Gaming and so excited about it. It was like a 10 a.m. live. It's the only 10 a.m. live I've ever had on this channel. I took work off for it. Well, I kind of had like PTO, but like it was booked out like a month and a half in advance because he's a family man. He's got a job and everything. That was a huge highlight for me. I had that mega live stream. It started off again with TCA Gaming, somebody I respect a ton in this hobby. I've had PokeRev now on this channel multiple times. We got SM Pratt on, whether Scott knew he was going to be on or not, like it doesn't matter because that's just in history now. Like time has made it by like that. He's on that video. I doubt he even like is probably happy, but I've now got to become friends with, Gary King Pokemon and, people feel how they feel about him. But I'll tell you what, you look at a guy who's done about as much for a hobby as anyone. You're talking about a guy who stayed up at night with Birdman and they talked on the phone and they were thinking of ways to keep this hobby going, which today, that sounds crazy. I mean, now you're just listening to one guy talk about this hobby, but that was it. Like there was nobody else to talk to. There was nobody else to listen. It means a lot. I got to have him on a channel and Zach Gemmint Pokemon, somebody again, I respect so much in this hobby. I got to see him, showcase his English versus series for the first time, make that public. I just got to see that on a live on my channel. I got to witness him showing those cards. When he showed that man time for the first time, I got to see that. Yeah, I'm not in person, but that was amazing for me. I got to have MK Poke CC on, a guy who, when I think about history of this hobby, and I think about like things that I obviously like, I want to like grow up to be him in a way, but he was a junior in high school. He, as a junior in high school, was washing dishes as a summer job and saved up $1,800 and bought a number 3 SSB Mewtwo. I was a junior in high school. I wasn't collecting Pokemon cards when I was a junior in high school, especially not in 2009. That's when he bought that card. Saved up $1,800. It was the first person ever to grade that card in a 10. First person ever. That's a man who graded Trophy Kangaskhan's in a 10. He sourced snap cards from Japan, bought the Poliwhirl, snap card. He owned number 1, number 2, number 3 trophy Pikachus, like 97 trophy, or I think his was maybe a 98 trophy Pikachu. He had the one that was super like faded, but still he owned it. And then he traded for an Illustrator Pikachu, and he put it perfectly in that video. He said, it's in the name of the game, Pokemon trading card game. And that's what he did. He traded cards away to get that, Illustrator Pikachu, which is amazing to think about that you could trade for that. And now we know what that card's doing in the sales, and that card is now kind of like on its own island. I'm sure Logan Paul helped to hype that stuff up. And Yeah, he had the Zapdos, Articunas, and Moltres, like the phone cards and stuff from the Tropical Mega Battle. Like that was part of the trade and stuff. And like these are big cards, you know. But I had him on the channel, somebody I've always like really enjoyed, and all the people I've just, met, like the from the guys who never had channels to now they have channels, and guys that I've seen their names in chats and I got to meet them in person, and just like 2022 was a crazy excited, crazy fantastic, like great year for me. Now, I hope 2023 is able to just like hold the candle to 2022. I don't know. And that mega live stream I had, that's something that gonna be hard to beat, I think about, I've had PokeRev on this channel now, like I I think I've lost count. It's like 4 times, 5 times PokeRev's been on this channel. That is a man who now is PokeRev's gonna hit 2 million subscribers pretty soon. More respect than I could ever give somebody. Like the fact that he's willing to come on this channel, the fact that he's willing to like watch these videos and just talk and chat, like, just such a cool dude, like just amazing. Sure, he has to like do his persona because his channel's a lot different. It's like very different type of content, like well edited, like pack open and stuff. And he has to like, be the PokeRev character. But man, getting him to be able to come on these lives and just, sit down and chat and rewind into like my first ever live. Like I see Mason Cardinal Games in the chat. He was the first person to ever come on my channel. And the reason why he came on this channel was because he was in a PokeGal live stream, and I was in the comment section of that video, and PokeGal shouted me out and said, "Oh, Poke Knowledge Cards, like he has a great channel." And then in that live, Mason goes, and you can see it, and I highlighted it in a video once. Mason's like, "Oh, Poke Knowledge Cards," types it in, he goes, "Oh, I just subscribed. I have to check him out." And then full circle, last year I had PokeGal on my channel as a guest, which if you haven't had a chance to watch that live, it was a great live. She is such a just all around like beacon of light in this hobby, like great person, just great enthusiasm, great, just all I've yet to find the person to say something bad about her. And then, I got to become good friends with, Basic Trainer and Rock Pokemon, guys I really enjoy, and my mods like, and I got Andrew, who's probably like hands down just one of the most engaged, best mods ever. And then I got to meet Chevals and, watching what Professor Oak has now done, somebody who is just in my comment section, and now Professor Oak is going to one day become a much bigger channel than this, in my opinion, probably a lot of other people's opinions, somebody who's just like so well respected. And then, I got to have, Pokemon Radar on last year for the first time, and then we got Squeaks to join at the end of that, and that's still like on my biggest bucket list of bucket lists is just one day hopefully be able to have just a one-on-one, conversation with Squeaks. And but even the new people in this hobby that I've, got to really like grow to learn, which is, like I think about the people I respect tons now, like Retrospecs. I've had Retrospecs now on alive, and me and Retrospecs maybe like got off on a little bit of a shaky footing. Like now that I know Retrospecs and I know him as a person, like he's always welcome on this channel, and just like dude's a wealth of information. And for somebody who got back into the hobby like relatively recently, just the amount of knowledge he has and the way he's able to navigate markets is something that's like pretty. It's not, I'm not gonna say it's pretty impressive. It is very impressive. And I got to, have Jake from Pokenomics on, and, just somebody I respect so much. And then Dan Catch 'em All Collectibles, and, Joe Echo Based Collectibles, and, guys that are, all these guys have now just, became, like my friends and stuff. And obviously I already mentioned it, but like, Cool Trainer Ryan and Rattle, and, these are guys that I now have, their phone numbers and stuff, and I could text these guys, and it's at the beginning you feel weird, like the fact that I now have like some of these guys phone numbers, and then I could just text them, and it's just like this surreal thing, and it's just all this happened in them yeah, sure, the channel's older than a year old, but 2022 was a pretty crazy year. Oh man. But yeah, and then, I even Danny Phantom, Danny Phantom, I got to have him on the channel, and Danny Phantom's just such a great guy. And, the content he's putting out is just freaking such top-notch stuff. And, I hate to even start listing people because now I'm sure there's just, people that I'm forgetting here and there. And then like Josh Old Card Shop, somebody I met at the Leonhardt pop-up shop. And it's kind of just went in passing, just like, hey, I'd like to have you on, or just as recently as my most recent guest, Colson, or getting to have James, Z&G Emporium, and watching what he's doing, and having Cam on too. And like, these are guys that I didn't really like have a friendship with, pre last year. And now I feel I'm friends with all these guys. Like, it is a wild 2022. How the hell am I going to be able to top this in 2023? Like, that's a crazy thing. And I haven't made a video in like the last week, but say I didn't make a video, but I hopped on a basic trainer live stream for like an hour. I did that big pack opening on Rattle's channel that went on for like 4.5 hours. And this was in the time I wasn't making videos. I still did like an hour on basic trainers live, and then, 4+ hours on Rattle's live. So I was like still on lives, but I wasn't making stuff. And why did I make videos? Well, it boils down to somebody put in the comments of one of my videos, they said, PK, we want to see your collection. And then somebody else in that comment section said, PK, we want to see your collection. And because of those comments, I've now been redoing my basement. I took off all this week. From Christmas to the time recording this video, I've been on PTO from work. And all I've been doing is redoing my basement, painting, doing trim. Like, that one comment has now cost me, I'm like into the thousands with how much money it's cost me to like redo my basement. And then I had to move half. So I have like a basement, like so it's a whole length of my house, but like half the basement is unfinished. It's like washer and dryer, hot water tank, furnace, stuff like that. And then the other half is like, drywall, and it's got like a drywall ceiling and stuff, but it hasn't been redone since I bought this house, and that's like where we keep all our storage, and that's where all my collection is. And it does not display nicely. It is probably one of the most poorly displayed collections in the entire hobby. And because I went through that, I had to like pull out cards, and then I had to go get a safety deposit box because I started looking at some of the stuff I had, and I was like, well, can't have this sitting at my house anymore. So now I'm paying a yearly fee for a safety deposit box, like all these little things, all because of one comment. And now I'm into it for hours of my time trying to design, and I call it an office, but my wife is very quick in front of all my friends to let them know that I'm designing a Pokemon room. And all that one comment, it's been like a week of my life to try to like display my collection. And I got to get like lighting and desk and office chairs, and it's just, it's been a lot. Like, so where I record right now, this is just my living room, because I used to record and I had an office. And then when my son was born, we changed the office into his bedroom, and then we kept the guest bedroom, but I kind of lost my office area. And then the conversation was moving to the basement. But when I started doing these lives, like I just had my laptop at first, just a laptop, and I just put it on the desk in front of me, and I'd press play and start talking. And then it was like, well, maybe you should upgrade your camera. So now I had my laptop, but then I had an external camera. And then it was, well, now you also need a microphone. So then it was laptop, camera, microphone. And then if you're going to do lives and you're going to host stuff through Discord, it's like, well, you got to get a PC. So now you get the PC, and you got the camera and the microphone, and now you got a screen. But now if you're going to do it, you need 2 screens. So now, over here, you got your second monitor. So now you got your computer and your 2 monitors and your microphone and your external camera. And it's like, oh boy, this all started with like a little laptop. Things happen quick, man. It's there's a progression. And that all happened in like 2021 and 2022. And every time I gotta like lug this stuff, and it's gonna be nice to have that office. Oh man. It's nice to reflect. I don't get to do this often, you know? You don't get to reflect, think about the hobby. A lot of fun though. A lot of beers were drank. I don't think that will end either. There'll be 2023 is a year. There's plenty of beers to be drank too. A lot to look forward to too. A lot of lives to look forward to, a lot of great conversations. And I think the one thing that keeps me going more than anything else is I like to think that the best times are like still ahead of us. And, my goal for next year is an aggressive goal. I hope by the end of next year to have 10,000 subscribers. And think about that. I haven't even been able to hit 5,000 subscribers in multiple years. And my goal for next year is to double my subscriber count in a year's timeline. If that doesn't hit that, that's fine. But I always want whatever my goal is going to be, my goal always needs to be, greater than what's probably more likely than not attainable, but it doesn't matter. And I think it's important to always take that finish line and just keep pushing it, pushing it back. I mean, you never should be able to like reach that finish line. And that's what this hobby is. If you summed it up, is this hobby doesn't have a finish line. So it's a great analogy when you think about the YouTube channel, how you keep pushing that finish line and kind of making it unattainable. And Pokemon is this finish line that keeps moving. And at the end of the day, it is this like unattainable thing, but that's fine because that's what makes this hobby so fantastic. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. You will never know everything about Pokemon. You can never know everything about Pokemon. Just to keep up with new information is daunting, let alone to know everything about every release, every set. But that's fine. And while nobody can know everything about everything, which is the way it should be, and if anybody ever tells you they do know everything about everything, then they're full of shit, and that's a person you shouldn't trust. But this is a beautiful thing. I do believe that anyone in this Pokemon hobby could be an expert at one thing, whether it's certain sets, certain cards, certain promos, certain characters, anybody could be an expert at one thing. And once you become an expert at one thing, then you get to become an expert at another thing and another thing and another thing. And given enough time, which is the title of this video, because time really means nothing in the long run, but in the short term, it means everything. And use time. And the things I always talk to people, and I say the thing I can never thank people enough for in this hobby is people donate to me their time. Like if you're watching this and if you've made it this far in this video, I mean, these are the title hit this out of the park. It's a stereotypical rant, and this is what I'm doing. But if you made it this far in the video, I mean, you're donating to me your time, and that's your most valuable resource. Forget money, forget everything. Like time is what's important. Time is what's valuable. And the fact that you're watching this video and you're donating to me your time, like, can't thank you guys enough. And I hope it's worth it. And I hope you're pulling out some knowledge here and there. But, even if you're not pulling out any knowledge here and there, as long as you're being entertained and you're enjoying it, because the way I look at it is even if you are enjoying this hobby half as much as I'm enjoying it, or 3/4 as much as I'm enjoying it, this is still probably like one of the best things that you got going, because how much I care about this hobby, how much I care about like just everything it's growing. And that is a crazy thought to think about. How can you be in something for so long and be so engaged and still have like that love grow? And it's like it's just growing. I don't think that could change, and I hope that never changes, but it's a wild thought. All right, guys. So this is where I take a step off my soapbox, and now I'm back. I'm on the corner somewhere, giving a speech. Shout out The Simpsons. So Brown CLM said, I guess this is truly rants. Is that the first comment? Let's see, live chat. Live chat. All right. I'm going to try. See, I got my second monitor over here. Oh man, I don't think it recorded every single message. Oh wow. I don't think I could scroll all the way back up. This is some crazy stuff. I'm just gonna read what the top chat I have. I'm sorry, guys. So Pokemon Classic says, I'm sure there was a lot written before this. I don't know why it's not updated for me. But Pokemon Classic says, do you think Chillin' Rain is going up due to the shortage of other booster boxes and people settling for something that's available and affordable artificial demand? No, I'm gonna actually go out on a limb and say Chillin' Rain is actually kind of underpriced for this market. And I this is like a real loose thing that I use, but I like to look at cards that are valued over $20. And when I look at like sets that are kind of undervalued, and Chillin' Rain has a lot of cards that are over $20 for what the price of that booster box is selling for. And usually when you have like that sort of price disparity with so many chase cards still selling for greater than $20, usually you'll see like a little bit of a like correction towards booster box. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing for Chillin' Rain. Now, don't get me wrong. Like that is not a true one-to-one. Like usually sealed products get to a point where like the sealed product is so overvalued, like there's a huge price disparity between like the value of the sealed product versus the chase card. And you don't have to go that far. You can look as like evolutions. What does an evolutions booster box sell for? What is the chase card selling for? But then, you know, that's where it gets a little like that booster box is just super overvalued, and those chase cards are just also still overvalued at prices. But then there's some booster boxes where price disparities of booster boxes get so far high that they start to actually go too far out of like the chase cards. Like I think about like a team up, and I think about what is a team up booster box selling for. And then I look at some of like the chase cards and some of the rainbow rare cards. I look at like the Gengar and the Mimikyu and cards like that. And I start to say, well, like now those raw cards maybe are starting to become a little undervalued in relative to what the sealed product is selling for. So to answer your question, Pokemon Classics, I think the question is Chillin' Rain is just maybe a little undervalued for what the market is, and Chillin' Rain is done. There's no more reprints. Like the trajectory of Chillin' Rain from now until forever, I don't hate it. And I mean, I like the $80 booster box price points way more than I like where it's at today. But like I said, time, people might look at a Chillin' Rain booster box at 120, 4 or 5 years from now and say like, oh, it's a $250, $300 booster box or whatever. Now, where I start to like have deeper conversations when I start to talk about Chillin' Rain is, and I've made videos talking about this in the past, and that's just like opportunity cost. Is the opportunity cost in Chillin' Rain right now, or maybe could you be flipping cards and doing other things with that same money? And that's going to be a different answer for everybody. And it's going to be how super engaged are you in this hobby? So I got Pikachu in here, I see. Good to see you, Pikachu. We got Chugs in here. Ancient Mew. Ancient Mew is always a fun time. Ancient Mew says Pokemon is truly genius for creating a shortage to get rid of their less popular sets. Listen, I don't hate that thought. I love any good tinfoil hat. Swag Daddy said it's a Ponzi scheme. John Doe says Chillin' getting older, yet despite no trainer gallery, the quality and quantity of alt arts are getting more recognition. A lot of well-priced cards in Chillin' Rain. I like this set. Yep. Local card shop says price for single cards hasn't come up nearly as much in comparison with the lack of sealed product. Yeah, that's a lot of products. I think this is where modern's going to become really hard to navigate for a lot of people. Because I think modern's going to become really tough for a lot of people to navigate in like raw cards because of how many of those cards exist. When we think about like some of these WotC products and stuff and some of the older stuff, sure, some of this stuff is like super mass produced. When you look at like base set, arguably probably the most printed set of all time. Base set. That's why when you look at all people's like vintage collections, there's always base set cards thrown in there. Always. But when you get out of base set and then you're like, okay, base set Jungle Fossil, they're there, and then base set 2 and your Team Rockets and your Neos and or your Gems and your Neos, and then you start to look at like your Legendary collections and your Expeditions and Aquapolis and Sky Ridges, and then you move into your early Nintendo stuff, and you start to notice like less and less of all these cards. So those sets are easier to navigate because you kind of know like rarity and scarcity and condition rarity, where modern is going to only be dependent on condition rarity. There's going to be like no rarity factor to it. It's just conditioned rarity, no actual rarity. Where when it starts to go to like some of these early Nintendo stuff, like if you guys want some of these like, Chase Nintendo EX cards, like to get them in real good near mint quality, they're probably going to be harder to find than not, where modern stuff, they're just going to be readily available. And anything that grades like less than a 10 is, I hate to use the word worthless because nothing in this hobby is ever truly worthless, but it's going to be like become almost as illiquid of a product as you could have. And I'm sure people are going to start to find that really soon about modern nines. Modern nines, if there is any liquidity to modern nines right now, that might be the only liquidity of a card like that you ever see. Because as pop reports for modern cards go up, it's going to be like 10 or bust. And if you are sitting on like CGC nines, and sure, no video would be a good recap without shit on CGC right now. But like if you're sitting on CGC nines opposed to like PSA nines, the liquidity is just going to drop even that much further. And if you're sitting on AGS nines, it's going to drop that much further. And if you're sitting on Tree Frog graded, it's going to drop even that much farther. So you got like your PSA, and then it dropped to CGC, and then it dropped to AGS, and then it dropped to Tree Frog, and then whatever else is down somewhere on the, like the liquidity in a nine for, and especially modern cards, can become really illiquid. And then really you're going to find out pretty soon about modern. It's like super chase or go home, where at least for some of this vintage stuff, like you can go after some Nintendo holos and there's still like some value there. Good luck like starting to find some value in, Garbodor VMAXs and stuff. Sure, I guess there's probably a little bit of, value in a Garbodor VMAX, but like, what is a Garbodor VMAX in a CGC 8.5 or 9? What does that sell for? Is it worth the price of grading? Does it sell? Is it e-liquid? Like, I don't know. Modern. Good old modern. Let's see. John Doe said, brilliant stars ETBs just hit the bottom price. He's been scooping up cases at $26.50 before prices move up. Yeah, that's a pretty good price. When I was picking up my Charizard UPC, or not Charizard UPC, special livery Charizard promos from Pokemon Center, one of the products I always was including was like one Brilliant Star 3-pack blister. And I was doing a lot of that, especially like the Glaceon Brilliant Stars 3-pack blister. Like I really like that one. Anytime you got evolutions in a 3-pack blister, it's just like when I was picking up all my Evolving Skies 3-pack blisters. I think I own like 90% of all, maybe greater than 90% of all of my Evolving Skies 3-pack blisters with the Umbreon promo in it. Because I think like the hobby just likes certain promos greater, just like for Cosmic Eclipse, like I like the Celebi a 3-pack blister opposed to all the other ones. See, still was able to bring up Cosmic Eclipse one more time in this video by talking about its 3-pack blister. Let's see. Shadowless Jack says, does the man in lunch atop the skyscraper still have Pokemon cards? Yeah, the guy right there smoking the cigarette, the guy holding, those are Pokemon cards. It's usually a white box, but it's been replaced with Pokemon cards. Let's see. So Ancient Muse said, too many people trying to be an LGS hurts the real LGSs. True. I think a lot of those online retailers, and I want to say it was Mason who's brought up like some good points, talking about these is why are people fire selling product the way they are? And, especially you're seeing some products that when you start to cannibalize products down, like there's more value in cannibalizing products down than prices people are selling stuff at. And yeah, people can make the argument. It's like, well, they got to sell that product because they're over leveraged with their credit cards and they got to pay their distributors and they got to get their next products and stuff like this. And it's like, sure, I guess that makes sense and all, but listen, if you have now gotten to the point where you have set up an LLC and you've set up, agreements with distribution and you've been now getting allocations through distribution, but yet you have all, and then you could then sell these products online. You've created all these things, but you can't sell individual packs. You can't sell promos. Means, and to anybody out there who's doing that and can't do that, but they do think that they could be a flipper of sealed product from distribution. If you think you can do that, but you don't think that you can break down a product and sell, your Evolving Skies packs inside something or your promos inside something, you think that's too hard. My recommendation to you is probably this is not really cut out for you because it's not that hard, especially if you've already done all these steps to get there. So don't sell product at like 20% losses from distribution if you really, really, really don't have to. And the thing about like Charizard UPCs at $67, you really didn't have to sell those at $67. I bet you if you went on eBay right now at the time of recording this video and just typed in Charizard UPCs and looked at most recent sales, they're probably not selling at 119 on eBay, but I can nearly guarantee you that they're selling for greater than 67. So don't fire sale stuff if you don't have to. And unless you just don't like making money on anything, it's one of the most confusing things. I remember people were trying to like bot eBay when some of these things were selling for $67. If somebody's trying to bot your eBay listing, that is a scary thought that maybe you've underpriced your product a little bit too much. So, personal opinion, take it for what it's worth. Pokemon Classic says, don't get me started on Julius Caesar. He has the most Shakespeare play. He has most of the Shakespeare play memorized, BK. Been tracking it for 12 years. Teaching it for 12 years. There you go, Pokemon Classics. So Kevin Clare says, my LGS will take stuff back for 7 days, but only store credit, which can be cool if you find it cheaper at Walmart and then want to buy some other product like a booster box. That's cool that your LGSs do that, give you store credit. So yeah, I mean, that's cool. I'm sure they don't do that for everybody, but like if it's something that's not easily resaleable, if they trust you, I guess that works. Like that's nice that they do that. Especially for store credit, because then you at least have to still spend that money there. That's interesting. So Cozy says, I really do believe a big reprint dump is coming. The only new set out of the first 3 months of the year is Crown Zenith. There's no way they don't fill space with reprints, right? You would think that. But then you would think that if you can buy a Brilliant Stars booster box on Pokemon Center right now at the time of recording this video for $145, there would not be any sales on TCG. Yeah, no sales on TCG Player at $190. And ironically, there are sales on TCG Player of Brilliant Stars at $190 when you can pick it up on Pokemon Center for $145. So some things make sense and some things just don't make sense. Maybe that will be the next video for how's 2023 going to play out. And the title of the video is sometimes stuff just doesn't make sense. So J Rob's Poke Talk said Brilliant Stars is his favorite. Brilliant Stars is also my favorite. It's a hot take. A lot of people don't like to hear that. Kevin Clare said Roaring Skies. Yeah. or in Skies 2.0, if they could somehow print Evolving Skies to the ground. I wonder how much it would take. Take a lot. I just don't know if Pokemon could do it, but I mean, let me rephrase this. Pokemon could do anything. They could reprint anything to the ground. I just don't think they'll actually do it. Because then you never know. It'd be a nice lesson for people to learn, like, don't over leverage on stuff and don't be so certain that things aren't going to get reprinted, especially stuff that is 8 months left of rotation. You're playing a dangerous game there. So Chugs says, where are you not seeing products? So Chugs, like, from distribution, Mason from Cardinal Gaming made a video today talking about it. From distribution, booster boxes are like non-existent. You can definitely pick up some auxiliary products and stuff like this, but if you are like me and probably like most of the people in this chat, especially if you're opening product, the recommendation will always be you want to get your price down to the lowest cost per pack. And especially if you're like keeping products sealed, a lot of people like to keep a booster box sealed of whatever. If you're trying to get your price points down for the cheapest possible price per pack, booster box is going to be the way to go. So if you're looking at modern product, you kind of got to look at booster boxes. Kevin Clear says, kind of want to go back to watch PK's first video 2022 after this. Yeah, I don't remember what that video was about. So you've got Quad Shot in there. Good to see you, Quad Shot, man. It's always fun to see in the chat. Matt M said, so much hype around the UPC. Was crazy how many people hyping it, causing FOMO. I think Pokemon knew exactly what they were doing after 2020/2021 lack of products. Yeah, you could say that. But now this is okay. So Matt, you're right. And I agree with Matt M 100% there. But don't forget that even though we would think that Pokemon would reprint everything to the ground, we also found out that 2022 and 2021 proved us very wrong with that. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of that. Sets that were not, they should have been overprinted and they weren't. Celebrations UPCs should have been printed to the ground because there was so much demand for that product. It should have been printed. Sure, there was the logistics of the metal cards and stuff like this, but we also saw metal cards in the Arceus UPCs. Maybe we can make the argument that Pokemon figured out like the better printing facility and they figured out how to print more of those metal cards. That's why the Arceus UPCs were still readily available and are still readily available. Or you could just say maybe it's a weaker product. That product more of it should have existed and it didn't. But another thing, a promo that more of them should have existed and didn't. I'll give you an example of a promo that absolutely went crazy in price. Special livery Pikachu from the Pokemon Center. You spend $20 in November 2020 for an entire week, 7 days. You just had to spend $20. You buy a t-shirt, you buy a keychain, whatever's going to add up to $20. You got that promo card for free. It was available for a whole month. As soon as that, or sorry, not a whole month, a whole week. As soon as that week was up, those special livery Pikachu cards went freaking bananas. And then everybody wanted them. Nobody wanted them when they were at Pokemon Center. And again, caveat to what I mentioned earlier. When I say nobody wanted them, obviously there was people that wanted them. But for whatever reason, people didn't know about them. Then everybody wanted a special livery Pikachu. Market went crazy. Then we say, maybe there weren't enough of the special livery Pikachus. Maybe Pokemon should have released more of these. What was the next freaking thing Pokemon Center did? They released the special delivery Bidoof and released the special delivery Bidoof as arguably one of like the least printed modern promos we have ever seen. And you could tell by the prices. And then they did it as like a weird lottery where like you could maybe get an email, but maybe you didn't get an email. Maybe some people got an email. People superly 100% actively engaged in this hobby didn't get emails. And then that special livery Bidoof went non-existent. And this is coming off the heels of the special livery Pikachu. If you told me after the special livery Pikachu that you would have the same exact like issue happen with the special livery Bidoof, I told you you're crazy. And then the special livery Charizard, and then we all speculated on what's that going to be. It's going to have the same kind of print run as the special livery Pikachu. It's going to have the same kind of release as the special livery Bidoof. Are Pokemon Center purposely holding back these special livery Charizards to print an absolutely crazy amount of them? What was the copyright date going to say? Was it going to say 2020? Was it going to say 2022? We didn't know. So yes, time played through on that, but we don't always know. Like sometimes Pokemon just decides not to print stuff for whatever reason. Herman Jose Santos says PK sounded like a physicist. What is time? In Pokemon Time Machine, nothing. Yeah, it's like, I'll leave you with this quote for today. What if you got so drunk with your friends? Like you just went out and you and your friends are having a great time. You got so drunk, you just blacked out and you fall asleep. You go home, you fall asleep, and you wake up. And you're in 5th grade and you're back at your parents' house in your childhood bed. That's how drunk you got. That should be everybody's goal, to someday get so drunk that you black out so hard that you wake up in 5th grade at your parents' childhood house. Think about that. Somebody make that into a meme. So Ancient Muse said, your channel is no longer rabbit hole status, PK, LOL. That is kind of sad to think about. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed, but I am looking forward to the channel growing too. And so TKK Pokemon collector said, did he say rabbit hole or rattle hole? Shout out Rattle Pokemon. Pokebondo said, imagine if all those promos opened up and were dusted like his. I don't think a single one could pull a 10. Yeah, so he must have had a lot of a lot of centering issues with the special delivery Charizard. So Chug says, no matter if I agree with people here or not, I love the chat. So much more thought than stuff I see on Pack Rippers. Yeah. That's the thing too, is I think there's room for all kinds of content. And you could be super, super successful in this hobby, making like that 10 to 20 minute, long video. I think that 10 to 20 minute, that's the sweet spot for YouTube. The YouTube algorithm is really going to push out, those 10 to 20 minute videos. The only problem is even if the person making that video has all the knowledge in the world, just sometimes 10 to 20 minutes, it takes a very special type of skill set to be able to push out all that information in 10 to 20 minutes and not leave anything out. And sometimes it's hard to not leave stuff out in like an hour-long video. So I got a ton of respect for those people that can push those 10 to 20 minute videos out and get their, thoughts out there. Yeah. Let's see. I think I'm pretty far back in this chat. Kaylee said Vivid Voltage is bonkers of a set. Yeah. Madam said, best set ever made. Insert new set here. Yeah, he's definitely right. So right before that, Masonberry said, no, but for real though, isn't Crown Zenith the best set ever made? Yeah. Every set is always the next best set. So Pokemon Classic says time is relative. Yep. John Doe says Mason's like, back up the semi for all the reprints. Mason's ready to take all these reprints. Yeah. That if you told me coming out of 2020 and all the issues we had with the printers, and then 2021, and then that tweet that Pokemon sent out where Pokemon said, we understand that there's a lot of issues with product and we're ramping up our printers to full capabilities, or whatever that email said, or that tweet said, and then we saw the news that Pokemon bought Millennial Print Group and all this stuff. If you told me in 2023 we would still be talking about like shortage of a booster box and shortages of modern product, I probably would have told you we're crazy and that there was no chance that was going to happen. But here we are. It's just, you ever seen the movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray? He just wakes up every day and just relives the same day over and over again. Like, that's just us. The last 2-3 years in this hobby has just been Groundhog's Day. Every day we wake up and the same stupid songs playing on the radio. We live the same day over and over and over again. And like, maybe like our day's a little different. We talk to somebody a little bit different, but overall the day just plays out the same. And my God, it's just still happening. So Hero TCG said, breaking news, Lost Origins just hit 130 a boost box. That is crazy. Yeah, I like Lost Origins. That is man, Pokemon did it. They really went out with a bang, huh? The end of Sword and Shield was a beautiful timeline. Same thing as, end of Sun and Moon was a beautiful thing. Team Up, Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, Cosmic Eclipse, like those 4 sets. And then Crown Zenith is not really a main set. I call it like set 12 and a half or whatever you want to call it. But, Silver Tempest, Lost Origins was good. Fusion Strike gets a lot of shit, but Fusion Strike was good. Brilliant Stars was good. Evolved Skies was good. It was a good time. Yeah, Pokemon does it right, huh? And that's why we're starting to see like the real early releases on Scarlet and Violet, and everybody's kind of just sitting back like, this is going to get a little bit better, right? Like, there's no way Scarlet and Violet is going to be kind of a stinker set. And oh my God, this is something I didn't even think about. If we see no reprints for the first quarter and Scarlet and Violet is kind of a stinker set, oh my God, that will be I can't wait to see how that plays out. TKK Pokemon card says Battle Styles is a very fun set to open. I'll tell you what, Sleepy T is my favorite of all the alt arts, and I think he's just saying he's coming off a Sleepy T high. So congrats. Like even the Urshifu, the alternative art, like I like that card, but yeah, the Sleepy T, it tells a story. I really like it. Let's see. John Doe said 2022 started off with a lot of bearish talk, yet Pokemon train kept going strong ahead. And Mason said, choo choo. Yeah. That's a thing about Pokemon. Pokemon is just a freight train going along the tracks, and it's not stopping for everybody. So Zard Lurkin said, PK, you go into Deep Pocket Monsters event in June. No, I will not be attending that. So local card shop said Charizard UPC promos are plummeting. I will say the opposite. I would say that those prices took longer to get down than I expected. I expected the race to the bottom to be way faster than we've seen. I just saw like a recent PSA 10 sale for $80. There's 3 of those promos come in that Charizard UPC. The fact that one of those promos still sold for $80 when the price of that UPC is $80, like I wouldn't say that's plummeted. I'd say that is a super healthy price right now today. And the fact that some of those early 10s, what they were selling for, the fact of what those early 9s were selling for, are still seeing like those early 9s were selling, like even on the low end at the release, those things were selling for like between 40 and $55 for 9s. That's a modern promo that is going to be graded like the Charizard Blackstar promo from Champion's Path. Like the fact that these prices are still this high, I wouldn't call it plummeted. So Kevin Clear said, glad I bought 20 copies of Sleepy Tea at 50 to $60. I don't hate that. Steven or 77 said, let's see. People are like, yo, Kevin Clear, why'd you buy so many of them? Yeah, it's a good buy. Somebody just realized this is a live chat. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah. Let's see. Let's scroll. Let's try to hop down. Let's see. PokeWound said off topic, but I was watching a video earlier of a newer PokeTuber. Really enjoy and wanted your thoughts on his channel. So he said, so question, what is your thoughts on Opossum Bud's YouTube channel? So PokeWounds, I like Opossum Bud. Opossum Bud's been on this channel before. He's been not interviewed, but he's been on the podcast before. So to answer your question, I wouldn't really consider it I guess it's a little bit newer of a channel, but no, I like him. He does great work and he's been on the channel before. If I didn't like him, he wouldn't have been a guest on my channel. So Zard Lurkin 92 said, PK, I got my 52 card bulk submission back from PSA. Good for you, man. I hope you did some really good hits. Anthony Lopez with a good troll. Congrats, Anthony Lopez, though. So Kevin Clare said, definitely going back and watching PK's first video of 2022 when this ends to see what he said. I don't know what I said. So you got Mason Berry. Good to see you, Mason Berry. Let's see. Mason Berry says PK doesn't text me. Mason, send me your digits. We could be text buddies. Let's see. Pokemon Classic says PKLO. Let them know if I need any like tech, audio, light, and consultant. And when I get my my Pokemon Grandma's Basement going, I'll be asking any question. So Mason Berry said, question, how many Moonbryons could you have bought rather than fixing up your basement? So just the amount of money I spent in trim for my basement, probably could have bought a Moonbryon. That's just the trim. That doesn't include the paint or all the supplies. So probably a decent amount. Yeah, so Pokemon, I guess 2023 is going to be the year of PokeTubers. I think everybody's like doing some pretty big changes. I know Catch 'em All Collectibles is doing a whole brand change. I guess he's now KA instead of Catch 'em All or the Charmander or whatever he was. Let's see. I'm just going to scroll right to the bottom. All right. Made it to the bottom. I'm sure I skipped a bunch of these. All right, guys. This was a lot of fun. Somehow this live reached an hour 51 minutes. This is the end of my vacation. I go back to work tomorrow, but it's actually good. When I go back to work, I get back into like a more of a routine, more of a schedule. So I'll still be able to make my lives and stuff like this. But it's always fun. Only plea I ever ask is if you guys are enjoying this, like we got 121 people watching right now. If you do me a favor, just go down below, hit that like button. It really helps me out a lot. It does a really lot for the video, like pushes out through the YouTube algorithm, all this stuff. But for anybody else, if you're new to this channel and you just discovered this channel, or you've somehow made it to the end of an hour and 52-minute long live, and you haven't hit that subscribe button, I recommend you hitting that subscribe button, especially if you like this content, if you like the podcast or whatever. It's just all around fun. 2023 is going to be an exciting year, and I'm excited to just go along for the journey with you guys. But with that said, appreciate every single one of you guys. And as always, I'll catch you on the next video.